Hello everyone, this is Nunu. I know it's been a while since I've made a video. A lot's been going on, but I do still appreciate everyone's emails and encouraging comments. I appreciate that so much. It's good to know that we're not alone, and it's been great to hear from people who are cult survivors from other different cults. I've had some emails from people who are Mormons, and then there was the Bride of Christ. I'd never even heard of that cult. So thank you, Jasmine and Lily, for writing to me. And it was just such a great conversation learning about how you guys grew up. And I wanted to make a video about something that I discussed with Jasmine and Lily, and I'm sure they don't mind me sharing that. We had a lot in common. The one big thing that I found that we had in common was the pressure to appear to be the best in whatever congregation you were in. I remember being a young Jehovah's Witness and with our family, going through the abuse and verbally, physically, sexually, especially the sexual abuse was pretty heavy. And I'm going to talk more about that in a different video. But this video, I want to talk about the pressure to be the best. And a lot of times that pressure can make people lie and step on other people's heads and hands and feet to appear to be doing the best in the congregation. So it was always for us as JW kids, we had to dress neatly. We had to be out in field service all the time. We had to sit in the front as a family whole, and you could not talk about anything but spiritual things. Anything about like home life or, oh, forget having a party. Like, I guess because our own home was not stable, we weren't allowed to have any type of parties or gatherings, let alone, obviously, being a Jehovah's Witness, can't celebrate Christmas or birthdays or anything like that. So, whenever a friend of ours was getting married or there was a graduation, we could go to their parties, but we weren't allowed to have any at our home. We had to arrive at the meetings early. There was no going late. There was just so much to hide. So we had to pretend to be this happy family. And there was this overcompensation. When someone is really up to no good, they're usually the ones doing the most. And I like to say that our family was always doing the most. Like I said, field service, and then there was this pressure to, after baptism, become a pioneer. And I wasn't interested in it. I didn't want to pioneer. I was only 11 years old when I was baptized. But I did wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go out early morning witnessing with the regular pioneers, the elders' wives, and I stayed up under them, mostly because I wanted to get out of my house away from the abuse, but also, too, there was just this immense pressure to appear to be okay, to appear to be like we are just as normal and great as everyone else, if not more. And while my abuser was a ministerial servant, there was this pressure on him when he was welcomed back into the congregation years after he was not disfellowshipped anymore. And we had moved and switched congregations and everything. So, whole new congregation, whole new, everything. So there was this thing we had to just put on the show. It was really hard too because there were times when it may have been a really bad night before where something really traumatic had happened. Maybe there was an argument, or we were being chased around with a belt or a hot iron. I remember my brother being burned with a curling iron. I got burned with a curling iron. It was just a way of torture and control, to keep us afraid. And then the very next morning, I would have to get up and with these bandages on my arm or and on my face or whatever, and go out in field service. And the sisters would ask, what happened, and I would have to say, oh well, I got in an accident, I was cooking and some grease spilled on me, or oh, I was doing my hair and I accidentally burnt myself while trying to curl my hair with a curling iron. And these answers were acceptable, even though there were bruises and things like that. People just sort of, they wanted to look over it. Nobody ever asked or looked into it any deeper than face value. All they cared about was making the hours and making sure you were at your meeting, making sure you were out in field service, making sure that you were coming together as a family. And I think that, there was pressure on my abuser as well, since he was a ministerial servant in the congregation, to make this family look perfect. And my mom, she was young, again, a follower. She was a child herself. So she just followed along with everything that he said. She was, learning how to drive. She was learning how to talk to people and be this perfect wife. And surely there was no way she was happy. Obviously, he wasn't happy. He was a gay man married to a woman and trying to be this religious person and pray away the gay, basically, and took it out on us. Took it out on us very harshly. Being forced into baptism at 11 years old was one of the most terrifying things that I had ever experienced. As I mentioned in my previous video, baptism as a Jehovah's Witness is very different than most religions. I can't say all, because after talking to Jessica and Lily, and Jasmine, those three girls, I can't, I can't imagine what it's like being baptized young there. But here, as a Jehovah's Witness, it's like a marriage contract. You are committed to these people, and if you do one thing of wrongdoing, they can divorce you, basically. They can kick you out. They can keep you from your family. The practicing of shunning is, wow, it's very heavy. I've lost two friends to suicide, who two people who've died by suicide, who was disfellowshipped. And I was a child. They were children too. One was 17 years old when they had died by suicide, and the other one was in their 20s, I believe in their early 20s. But I remember being about 16 years old, learning that my friends had died by suicide simply because they had gotten into relationships, and they had slept with their significant other, their partner, boyfriend or girlfriend, and when it was found out, they were disfellowshipped. I know a lot of other religions might call it like deleted or shunning. It's all the same thing, where your family don't talk to you, suddenly your friends can't talk to you, and it's really hard. It's a really hard life from what I've seen, because I was close to these people, and there were times where I wanted to call them and see if they were okay. And mental illness is real. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder because of this abuse and this pressure to be perfect. And in a way, that pressure makes you a little crazy too. I think that contributes to the trauma as well. And I'm going to do that in another video. I'm coming up on my 10 minutes. I want to talk about trauma and what cult mindsets and teachings how it causes trauma. It would be so great if you guys could continue to email me. Perhaps leave a comment in the bottom. I've been getting more emails and comments. That's great too. Keep them coming. I don't mind. But it gives us something more to discuss. Again, thank you, Jesse, Jasmine, and Lily for your emails and allowing me to discuss the pressure that we all experience, even though we came from different religious backgrounds. We all still consider cults because of the shunning practices and the abuse and the way that they hide these things. So yeah, let's talk more about trauma and how was being in a cult traumatic to you? What were the things that caused trauma in your life physically, even mentally? I'm curious to know. Thanks again, guys, for watching. It's Nunu. Hope to talk to you soon.